Yeah, let's do it.
Sanders patiently running. Sanders good cut. And another block. Sanders still going inside the 40.
NFC East champs, divisional champs, NFC champs, and world champs.
Hello, everybody. It is here. It is here. It is finally here. The 2022 regular season is finally arrived. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald, as we are the Kelly Green Hour. Connor, we finally get to talk regular season football. I can't wait.
Agreed. I'm tired of speculating and saying maybe this, maybe that. I'm done with it. I'm ready to see the real deal on the field and, probably overreact to things that we see in week one. Who knows? Because I'm sure you see it already. There's people overreacting to some things that happened last night. So I'm just pumped. It was good to have real football back, and it was actually a pretty good football game. Like, I get it. Matt Stafford and the Rams did not look good, but it was a good football game.
Yeah, it was good. The first half was good, and the Bills came out smoking, which kind of everybody expected. The Bills are the best team in, through one game, the Bills are the best team in football. They have the best record. But no, in all reality,
I get what you're saying, though. I think they're probably the best team in football. Like, you have the best offense, and you have a pretty good defense that is actually missing people. They're missing bodies.
The Bills were the number one ranked defense last year, and added Von Miller, who
looked good.
Didn't lose a step. He looked really good. He's teaching all the young defensive linemen for the Bills. He had Jordan Phillips, a 320-pound defensive tackle, did a spin move. Like, who does that? Like, what defensive tackle does that? Aaron Donald might be the only one.
If I were to argue or debate who's got like a better defensive line, the Bills or the Eagles, I think it would be really tough.
The Bills.
I think the Bills, because they're younger. I think it's a younger line. To me, it looks like a better line. But the Eagles are building towards that again. But obviously, unfortunately, you kind of got to get rid of some of the, I don't want to say dead weight. Because like guys like Brandon Graham, and clearly you need Brandon Graham, but guys like Fletcher Cox and stuff, they're not dead weight, but they're not necessarily Jordan Phillips, Ed Oliver, and amongst the plethora of edge rushers that they have. Greg Russo's out there on the edge and stuff. So,
before we get into what we want to discuss this evening, as always, follow us on Twitter at the Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHero54. Follow the Painted Lines on Twitter at the Painted Lines. Good point, Dave. You caught me, man. You caught me at the Painted Lines, and follow the Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and all that.
Yeah, for anybody listening on podcast, we have a guy, Dave, in the comments who said the Bills have the better defensive line because they don't have Derek Barnett. LOL. Yeah, definitely true.
That caught me as Dave. You can't do that to me, buddy. As I'm in the process of trying to give out all the information before we get started.
It's a lot of info to remember, and you're cracking jokes. Jeez.
I know, right? To everybody that's watching, that's streaming live with us right now, throw anything in the chat. We will definitely get to it. We got one question: who gets more yards? Now, do you mean for this game or for the season? Who gets more yards, AJ Brown or Devontae Smith? I think for the season, it's going to be AJ Brown.
I think it's going to be close. I think we might have two 1,000-yard receivers, but depends how involved Dallas Goedert is.
I don't think they have two 1,000.
We shouldn't get our hopes too high that we have two 1,000-yard receivers because we never even get one. So the prospect of having one this game.
So for the game,
Devonta Smith.
I think Dallas Goedert gets the most yards.
Yeah,
I know he's not one of the options, but I think it'll be Dallas Goedert. That's just me.
Look at the linebackers he's facing. He's gonna eat the middle of the field alive. Although the point can be made, AJ Brown, he feasts in the middle of the field. So.
And also, Devontae Smith is going up against the second corners, and by watching, Hard Knocks and all that, I know they got Okuda's one starter, and the other starter on
It looks like it's I can't get it. I'll never get this name right, but it's Amani Oruwariye.
He had 6 picks last year, I think.
Man, we got so many questions. We haven't even gotten to anything.
I know.
Okay,
All right, so we're definitely going to get the percentage of Lamar
let's
Jackson.
say before we get into the actual game, what's percentage of Lamar Jackson is the Eagles QB in the near future? I'm going to say 1 because nothing is impossible, but I'm going to say 1%. I do not think that there is a chance. I think, you know what happened here? The Baltimore Ravens are betting on themselves and him taking less. But I know the big thing is he wants fully guaranteed. But the example set by, the Derek Carr extension, the Matthew Stafford extension, some of these other extensions, he wants the Deshaun Watson treatment, except no team is as stupid as the Cleveland Browns. So there's a difference that you just can't. Well, maybe the Chicago Bears, arguably, but to me, Lamar will be a Raven. But I think they want to put the money where their mouth is, and I think they're going to end up having to pay him more than they would have had to pay him if they had just signed him preseason. Personally,
I think Lamar might leave. I actually think he might leave after this year.
Really?
That'll be an interesting thing to follow with the Lamar and Baltimore situation.
Question, L, do you think he gets fully guaranteed?
No. He wants it, but it's not going to happen. Who just signed Russell Wilson just signed an extension, didn't get fully guaranteed.
And didn't get full. Exactly. That's my thoughts. Deshaun Watson set a precedent, and then there was 3 extensions after Watson. It was Carr, it was Wilson, and it was somebody else, and they didn't get fully guaranteed money. So there's no way that you can probably get the most guaranteed money behind Deshaun Watson, but to expect a fully guaranteed contract that's probably going to be more expensive than Deshaun Watson's, no.
Yeah,
you're not getting $300 million guaranteed. No chance.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. It'll be, like I said, it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. It's what goes down in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson, he's not your typical quarterback. Obviously, we know he's an athletic freak. He does have a pretty good arm, but he also hasn't won many playoff games. And I know Deshaun Watson hasn't either, but the only reason Deshaun Watson went to Cleveland was because they gave him all that guaranteed money. Because who in their right mind wants to go to Cleveland? You know what I mean? All right, so before we get into this Eagles-Detroit game, I want us to take a step back because we didn't get to do an NFL preview show, but we're going to do this quick. We're going to give our division winners, and we're going to give our Super Bowl matchup. So let's start in the AFC. Let's go with the AFC East. I'm going to go Bills.
I'm going to go Bills.
The Dolphins will finish in second and be a wild card.
Wow. I do not have any other team beyond the Bills coming out of this division to the playoffs.
So let's go to the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals will win the division, and I think they'll be the only team in the playoffs out of that division.
I got the Bengals, and then I'm really stuck on – I think it's going to be really close for that second wildcard spot, and it's going to be up between the Ravens, the Broncos, and the Chargers. And the Chiefs, sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the Ravens are going to make the playoffs too. So there's 2 out of that division as well. I'm sorry. I can't believe I forgot about the Ravens, and we just talked about them.
You already got 2 out of the first 2 divisions. We haven't even hit the Wild West.
Yes. Now we're going to go to the AFC South, the pathetic AFC South, and I'm going to let me pick out of the hat the team that's going to win the AFC South.
I hope you only have like 2 in that hat because there's 2 teams you can probably.
I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts.
I'm going with the Colts as well. The Titans are good. I just think the Colts are a little bit better, and I think Matt Ryan puts them over the top. Whereas like last year, it all came down to one game and Carson couldn't do it. If you put Matt Ryan in that same situation, I think it's not all on him, but I don't think they're in that position this year where they have it all land on one game.
Malik Willis is going to be the Titans starter by the midpoint of the season.
Oh,
I think so. Gross. Now let's go to the wild AFC West. I have the Chiefs winning the division with the Chargers finishing in second and making the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, there's 3 wildcard teams, right? What am I talking about? Okay, yeah, so I got the Ravens and the Bengals, and then I got the Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers all coming out of this division.
Wow, so you have 3 from the
I got 3 coming from this division. I think they're just going to do so well outside of the division that they're going to get the opportunity to all be there.
All right, so
But I have the Chargers winning it. Sorry, Chargers winning.
Who's your AFC title matchup and who's going to the Super Bowl now? Actually, wait. Let's do the NFC. Let's start.
See, I didn't hash it out that way, so I just have a team going to the Super Bowl.
All right,
I don't have it all.
Who's going to the Super Bowl in the AFC?
Bills.
I'm going to go Chiefs. I wanted to go Bills.
To be different, or is it
to be different? Because I do think that the Bills are the best team in football, but I'm just to be different. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and maybe Andy finally proves people right by proving that he's the smartest person in the room by trading away Tyreek Hill. So we'll see. All right, so let's go to the NFC. Let's start in the NFC West. Who you got?
I would say I got the Rams and 49ers coming out of here. Rams winning it. I still think they win it. I don't like the Cardinals. Like, I get it. There's people who are kind of in on the Cardinals a bit, but I just don't. I can't. I don't see it. Especially that offense early on, minus DeAndre Hopkins. Now they're out Rondale Moore. Zach Ertz is questionable. Like, they might not even have much of an offense to march out there the first couple weeks. So that's like very concerning. I think their defense is a bit worse than last year as well. So.
I hope that offense doesn't show up week 4. I think that's when the Eagles go to Arizona. I think it's week 4.
I think the Cardinals just missed, but 49ers and Rams for sure.
I'm going to go 49ers winning division with Jimmy Garoppolo as the starting quarterback.
Oh.
And the Rams will be
Trey Lance. Trey Lance already had his ego hurt. He was already whining about.
And the Rams will make
the guy.
The Rams will make the playoffs as a wild card. So we have the same teams, just flipped in order. Let's go to the NFC South. I'm going to go Tampa Bay, just because the rest of the division stinks. And I don't get the love. Like, I don't get the love for the Saints. By the way, you lose it.
I think it's clickbait. I think some of it's controversial because, like, okay, the defense is pretty good, the offense is okay, but none of that screams any better to me than 9-8 at the best. 9-8.
And I guess I guess with the Eagles having the Saints first round pick, obviously we want them to go 0-17. Give us the number 1 overall pick so that we can draft Will Anderson. But I don't see that love affair with the Saints, and they have a lot of look. You don't have one of the best play callers in the NFL history in Sean Payton. What is Dennis Allen? Wasn't he a coach before?
He's a defensive coordinator. He's not even going to be calling the plays. So
and they got Lombard. I think Lombardi.
Yeah, from
Jameson Winston. Like
Chargers.
I'm not that big on Winston. And look, I like Alvin Kamara. I like Chris Olave, Michael Thomas if he can come back healthy. But I don't know if the offensive line is going to be healthy. So I'm just going with Tampa out of the South.
Marina Sands says 49ers not making the playoffs unless Jimmy G is the starter.
I said that
Jimmy the fourth game.
I said Jimmy G will be the starter.
I would honestly tend to agree with that statement. I feel like they brought Jimmy G back as the highest paid backup for a reason. They're not that bought into Trey Lance, which is a really bad look because they mortgaged their future essentially for Trey Lance. So I got the Bucks as well. By the way, I no chance the Falcons and Panthers do anything. Panthers, Buddy is probably on his way back to college after this year. Matt Rule, he is getting canned for sure. And I agree. I don't get the love affair with the Saints. I think it's kind of clickbait-ish. I think you can find a way to get them to, 10 wins or 11 wins and get them into the playoffs. And then, anything happens. But I see them as a 9-8, 8-9 team. 9-8's a stretch.
So let's go to the NFC North. I'm taking Green Bay to win the division with the Vikings to finish in second and to make it as a wild card.
The NFC is so not that good compared to the AFC. Like, it's so difficult. I'm going to go Green Bay, and I think Minnesota squeezes in. It's going to ultimately come down to Minnesota or New Orleans, but it won't be that good.
Yeah, that game, the opener this weekend between Green Bay and Minnesota has a chance to be a real big one for the NFC North. I mean, I know it's only game one, but like Aaron Rodgers said it this year, all those teams, the fans of those teams always think that they have a shot to win the NFC North. But ever since he's been there, hasn't happened pretty much. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think both teams make it. And let's finish up with the NFC East. I'm going to have the Eagles win the division at 11-6. Washington's finishing in second at 10-7, and they're going to be the other wild card team.
Wow.
So the Eagles and Washington.
The more you look at the situation in Dallas, the more I'm really becoming more and more skeptical. And I know that it sounds like, I mean, you listen to Philadelphia Eagles show, so you're probably sitting there and you're like, of course you're hating on the Cowboys. But I mean, look at the situation. Look at the injuries. Look at they're just in such an volatile situation. They have an amazing offense, but that defense their defense is much improved last year over the year prior, but that defense, I don't think it's any better than where they are now, which is I think they're 20th ranked last season in yards allowed and points allowed similarly. I just don't see them getting a whole lot better. I'm not bought into Trayvon Diggs. The only person I'm bought into there is Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, and even Lawrence, he's getting older. So you just don't know. But Micah Parsons,
I think DeMarcus Lawrence is overrated, in my opinion.
Micah Parsons, I love. I do love Micah Parsons, but never would I trade
he went to Penn State.
Smith.
I hate Penn State. So.
Never would I trade the Devonta Smith pick for Micah Parsons, though, with the situation that ended up coming of everything, and Nakobe Dean falling, and everything led to this circumstance that we're in right now with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I got Philadelphia, and it's interesting because I remember last year we talked about Washington. I said I felt Washington was underrated. I feel Washington can get there. I think it hurts that they're without Chase Young for the first 4 weeks. I think that's tough. I think Dallas makes it over Washington. I just don't know. Washington bringing in Wentz, I don't think makes them better. And I don't know if I love that offensive line for Carson Wentz.
I mean, I think Carson Wentz is going to definitely make them improve. I think he's going to be a better quarterback. And I'm hoping, I think that this being the third time around, he's going to realize he needs to step it up. So that's why I think he's going to beat the Eagles once this year too.
Whoa. Darlene, are you a Cowboys fan? I'm just curious. I have to understand where your fandom is. You don't know what you're talking about. Dallas Cowboys is going to win the division again.
The last time a team won the division back, Matt's back. The last time a team won the division back to back was 2004 when the Eagles did it. So that's probably the biggest reason why neither of us see Dallas winning the division. So we'll see. And then who's your NFC pick to go to the Super Bowl?
I know that I should say Philadelphia, and the more and more I look at the NFC, I'm like, man, they could really make it out of there. Like Green Bay is already in injury trouble early. Tampa's in injury trouble early. The LA Rams, I don't buy into that game on Thursday night being the be all end all and to overreact to the Rams situation. I honestly think it's tough. It could really go either way.
I'm going Green Bay.
I was going to say Green Bay. I really think Green Bay will be the one because I'm never going to count Aaron Rodgers out, and their defense is really good. Their defense is still really good. But people are kind of out because of Devontae Adams, and it's let's get it clear. Aaron Rodgers has been doing this before Devontae Adams came into the picture. Aaron Rodgers made Aaron Rodgers. No receiver made Aaron Rodgers. That's my point on it. I think Green Bay as well.
I'm interested to see the young guys for them. Was Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, or is it Christian
Alan
Watson?
Lazard will be around
again. Lazard. I'm interested to see what he can do with those guys. Robert Tunyon's back. Aaron Jones is one of the better running backs in the league. With AJ Dillon, if they can stay healthy, they have a shot. They'll be a good team. I would love to pick the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl, but it's tough to do that.
I just think when push comes to shove with some of these teams, I still don't think they have the it factor to beat the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady.
So
Matthew
the Eagles
Stafford is
defense, which
clearly shown he can be beat, but
the Eagles defense should be improved. I mean, obviously last year they made that run at the end because they played the piss poor all quarterbacks the end of the year. Now they got to get to the point to where they can be a good quarterback. And I mean, do we count Kirk Cousins as a good quarterback? Kyler Murray, he's a good quarterback, so you got to beat him. Do we count Dak Prescott as a good quarterback? They haven't been able to beat him in a while.
I would count Dak Prescott as a good quarterback. Look at that
So,
offense.
Yeah, so like the Eagles have a chance, because they're not facing that many great teams. Like, well, let's go with Arizona. Like Arizona has all you mentioned it, all these injuries. Hopkins out the first 6 games unless that gets appealed, which I don't think it is now.
I don't think he was appealing any.
Yeah,
further.
so like we won't see him. They got to go to Arizona, but the home field for Arizona is not that good. Eagles fans travel. Like when we watch this game on Sunday, it's going to sound like a home game for the Eagles. Like,
it'll be like Bills fans in LA last night.
Well,
LA
has
Bills fans.
LA has 0 home field advantage.
This is true.
0. It doesn't matter what type of if they won the Super Bowl or not. It's always it's going to be a Dodger and Laker town. It's never going to be a Rams, especially not a Chargers town. That's why when the Eagles went out to LA a couple of years back at the Coliseum, when the year Carson got towards ACL, the Super Bowl year, it was like an Eagles home game all the way across the country. So there are certain teams that like even Dallas, like that 100,000 seat stadium, 30% of that's always at least 30% of that's the opposing team. So there are very few. Green Bay's a home field advantage for Green Bay. Trying to think quickly off the top of my head. Like Philly's obviously a home field advantage for the Eagles. Kansas City is a home field advantage for there are those handful of teams you'll get a true home field advantage. But then there's the other teams that you're like, you can see the opposing team taking over the stadium.
Like Washington.
That crap hole in the stadium. Washington fans don't like Washington. They hate their owner. They hate Daniel Snyder. So they're not going to support that team until he's gone. All right.
Darlene does a great job of transitioning for us. You don't even have a good quarterback, so you're going to lose some games. You're going to lose against the Detroit Lions, I hope. Okay, cool. Let's start diving into this Detroit Lions matchup. Why not?
Well, before so you have the Bills versus the Packers. I have the Chiefs versus the Packers. Who do you have winning, Bills?
Bills.
All right, I'm going to go Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers gets his second title. Okay. Before, we did have a question. Are the Eagles trying to sign OBJ or Eric Fisher? Eric Fisher would be a no. I think they feel they're comfortable with the young depth
line.
Yeah, they're comfortable with the young. I know Dillard's hurt and out the first 4 weeks, but they're comfortable with Driscoll. Or if they had to move, Lane Johnson over to the other side, they could do that. They're comfortable with the depth. OBJ is a very, very interesting name. He was out in LA yesterday, and the Bills want him. I know Howie, clear. They needed to get a back under the cap because they were about $2 million over on Wednesday, I believe it was. Now they're about 9 to 10 million under the cap, which Howie likes to have. Obviously, they could roll it over to next year, or if say Chauncey Gardner-Johnson plays well and they want to give him an extension, they have that flexibility now. But they also have the flexibility if they wanted to go out and sign a running back or make a move for a running back. They could, depending on what happens with Miles Sanders. And then again, the OBJ news. So it wouldn't shock me, let's say, if the Eagles do go out, as Wayne asked, what will Howie do with the extra cap space? Save it till someone gets a bad injury. I don't know if they're going to save it for an injury, but I think it's going to be for an extension. For probably
I think it'll be more for just like you said, they're going to roll it. I think he's going to roll it over because if you look, I think I looked at the list of free agents next year, and there's 15 players who are becoming free agents, and a few of those are crucial guys. Like you got Gardner-Johnson, like you said, you have TJ Edwards. There's some names that you really got to watch out for next year that could end up becoming free agent. So I think Howie uses that $9 million to roll over, except for an emergency. Like Wayne said, if someone gets a bad injury, I wouldn't be surprised to see him reach out and try and get a name and pay what he has to get that name in here, because I think thinks he's built a team that can make a run or that can be very competitive. So if somebody goes down with an injury, he is going to go to that whoever's at the top of the free agent list for that position, and he will give them a blank check and say, I got $9 million to play with. What are we doing here?
Yeah. So Matt, every week I feel like you say fire Howie, and believe me, and as Connor can attest, I would typically agree with you. And look, I get it. We don't have a franchise quarterback right now. Is that the only reason you want to fire Howie? I need.
Well, Matt does say a bit higher that we have 17 new players on roster, 17 and an unproven coaching staff that has to incorporate them. 8 and 9. Okay, listen.
See, that would have made sense last year. They're more experienced this year. Last year, they should not have made the playoffs last year, but they did because of the schedule. The schedule was awful last year. And the quarterbacks they faced down the stretch were bad, and that's why, like, the best quarterback they faced was Teddy Bridgewater, and that doesn't say much. And in that last game of the year where the Eagles played their practice squad while Dallas went and wanted to try to get momentum going into the playoffs, and what happened? They lose their first round home playoff game. So, like,
I do want to say, like, he says take the green glasses off. I mean, we didn't pick them to go to the Super Bowl. And FYI, look at the national media right now. There's a lot of people who are picking the Philadelphia Eagles.
Which is also a worry to me, because as Jason Kelsey said a couple weeks ago, when the Eagles have the expectations are high for them, they're terrible. They usually don't meet them. And when they come into the season as the underdogs, like 2017, they surpass expectations. So I get that feeling, and that's a worry of mine. Believe me, that's a worry of mine going into this Detroit game, because after watching Hard Knocks and seeing how Dan Campbell, whether if it's fake bravado or not, Dan Campbell, he put his team through a pretty tough as you can have in the NFL these days, training camp, and the Eagles didn't really do much in training camp. But guess what? The Eagles have nobody on there. I mean, Andre Dillard's the only one that's out, and he's a backup.
And the Detroit Lions are banged up bad.
They are banged up bad. They're 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen could potentially not play on Sunday. That's
I think
a
right
big
now,
deal. Like right now, they practice today,
and Ragnow, I think, are pretty much. Ragnow did practice, but I almost think they're not going to go, either of them, to be honest.
We'll see, but like that matters. You want to go into the season as healthy as possible. We talked about it years ago, where in a 16-game season, the Eagles had 14 different combinations of an offensive line. That's not good. So you want to be as healthy as you can. Obviously, it's a tough season. You're playing 17 games. You're not going to be 100% healthy come week 18. But if you can start the season healthy, you have a chance. Obviously, like last year, the Eagles did pretty much the same thing. And in that first game, they came out. And while the defense struggled early on, they only gave up, I think, 3 points. I think Atlanta had two long drives. One ended in a field goal. The other ended and might have been, I don't know if it was a field goal or a missed field goal or something like that. So don't be shocked if the Eagles come out sluggish on Sunday. It could potentially happen, and just don't be shocked. And then if you look at and you don't play the game on paper, I know, and I hate to say it, but if you look at the talent, the Eagles are a more talented team than Detroit. So Detroit has, with the home field, Detroit's going to come out fired up, especially after last year's 44-6 butt whooping that the Eagles gave them. It wouldn't shock me if Detroit came out, scored first, whether it's a field goal or touchdown, and it feels like they have all the momentum. But I think the talent of the Eagles will take over eventually, especially in the second half.
Darlene says we don't know football. That's listen, that's quite all right. If that's us or the people in the comment section, that's quite all right. You're fully entitled to your opinion on this. But if we don't know football, we got the Buffalo Bills winning the Super Bowl as well. I got the Bills winning the Super Bowl too, Darlene. So I don't know here. Maybe there's a few of us here that might not know football, but yeah. Otherwise, yeah, no, but this has been something over the last few weeks that we've actually talked about. We have a concern that we could lose to the Detroit Lions. We've said it every time we've had an opportunity to say it. We've said it that we have a concern that we might lose to the Detroit Lions because it's a very realistic possibility. Expectations are through the roof, especially with the national media. And we're going up against one of the weaker teams in the NFL, but they play really incredibly hard for their coach.
They
So
also
there is a
don't know
world where
like playing a team like Detroit early on. I don't want to say it's a disadvantage, but they don't know that they're going to be bad per se. Like if you play them later, like they could be 2-6, and it's like, all right, look, we're not good. But you're playing like everybody's 0-0. Well, not anymore, but most 30 of the teams are 0-0 going into Sunday, and they all think they have a chance to win their division and make a run in the playoffs. So Detroit right now, like with the Aiden Hutchinson pick and with the second overall pick, and DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and like the weapons that they have on that offense, that Jared Goff thinks he can take a step forward. Like they don't have that negative connotation right now. But if the Eagles come out, punch them in the mouth, and then like in the first quarter, first half, then it'd be like, all right, well, we're the Detroit Lions, like we're supposed to lose, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm just what I'm happy about is that we're watching regular season football.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not preseason, as you said. We're not speculating. We're going to see what the Philadelphia Eagles are this first game. We're going to get to see Jalen Hurts. Has he worked on throwing the football down the field? Has he worked on his accuracy? We're definitely going to see it. And they're having their first standing room only game in a long time.
That's one of the first standing room only games in the
30% of that crowd's going to be Eagles fans.
It's actually one of the first standing room only games for the NFL in general in a long time. Like this is their first sellout. I think I saw it's one of the only sellouts they've had that wasn't Thanksgiving game. Because of course everybody's going out on Thanksgiving. But let's dive into it, El. Let's dive into let's talk Eagles offense versus Lions defense. What type of matchup stands out there in your eyes?
Well, answering the one question, who's going to have more yards, AJ or Devontae? And we both kind of said Dallas Goedert. Goedert against their linebackers, whoever their linebackers are, that's a big mismatch. If Jalen Hurts can get the ball to Goedert, and Goedert can actually catch it, because we know last year he had a hell of a time trying to catch the football. They should be able to abuse the middle of the field for against Detroit. And I don't know. I think Detroit's going to come in not wanting to allow the Eagles to run for over 270 yards, whatever it was that the Eagles ran for last year. So it wouldn't shock me if they stack the box and force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball. But this is where he better utilize A.J. Brown, better utilize Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, Zach Pascal, Dallas Goedert, Kenny Gainwell, whoever's going to be out of the backfield. Utilize these guys in the pass game. I just think the Eagles' offensive skill set, like A.J. Brown is going to be better than, or Devontae Smith is going to be better than Jeffrey Okudah. I don't see Okudah being able to stick Devontae Smith one-on-one. A.J. Brown's going to be better than the cornerback. We both can't say his name. And I know he was a really good player for them last year. 6 interceptions. I think he was a Pro Bowler. But who are you going to double team? Because you can't double team. If you double team AJ and Devontae, Dallas Goedert is going to eat the middle of the field. If you double team, that's the key. If the offensive line can keep Aiden Hutchinson and that defensive line of the Lions off of Jalen Hurts, he should be able to hit his receivers, and they should be able to move the ball down the field.
Agreed, definitely. And I mean, based on the depth chart that I'm looking at, it looks like they basically have a base nickel defense. So they got 5 defensive backs. So the 2 linebackers are Chris Board and Alex Anzalone.
Anzalone used to be with the Saints, I think, right?
Used to be with the Saints, yep. So, I mean, you look at it, first of all, if it's going to be a base nickel defense, then that automatically gives Dallas Goedert an advantage, because there's a good chance Dallas Goedert could be going up against the nickel corner. There's a chance that he could be going up against a safety. And
that's a mismatch for the Eagles.
That's a massive mismatch for them. And I know like Tracy Walker, he's pretty good. So they got a decent safety there. But like you said, you can't double team everybody. You can't double team pretty much anybody because you're going to leave a really good weapon open. Even if you leave Miles Sanders open, you've seen Miles Sanders. He can tear off big run after big run. He can make a catch. Healthy. Exactly. If he can stay healthy, but even otherwise, then we got Kenneth Gainwell. Okay, cool. Kenneth Gainwell, we've seen he's an extremely effective pass catcher and he can do a lot with the ball in his hands. So I agree with you. You can't double team anybody, which is going to make life very difficult for some of the Detroit Lions defense. And I'm really excited for the Aiden Hutchinson versus Jordan Mailata matchup. That's going to be a good matchup. What better way to welcome a defensive end to the NFL than to go up against, no matter what side, pick a side, likely Jordan Mailata playing on Jordan Mailata's side or Lane Johnson's side. That is that's the toughest welcome to the NFL I think you're going to get. One of the toughest. So I'm excited for that matchup because I like Aiden Hutchinson too. I think I saw earlier in the chat, someone said Aiden Hutchinson's overrated. I don't think he's overrated. I just think he needs to be on a better defense. I think there's going to be some sky-high expectations, and he might not live up to them in the first year because there's not a whole lot of support for him along that defense. But I liked Aiden Hutchinson. I thought he was a great edge, but personally, I mean, I'm excited for that matchup.
Yeah, Dave says, according to Steve, and I did see this, according to Stephen A. Smith, Jalen Reagor is going to go off because he has something to prove, except Jalen Reagor doesn't play for the Eagles anymore. Oh, man.
I remember that. Oh, that's great.
I think that was a couple of days ago that he said that. That's crazy. Let's jump over to the Eagles defense against the Lions offense. Lions have some weapons. DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I wish I'm happy he's not playing because I wouldn't want him to beat us, but Jameson Williams, I can't wait to see him on the field.
Agreed.
I'm shocked they jumped 20 spots to get him. And I thought that maybe when the Eagles jumped up, that's who the Eagles were going to go after. But then the Lions took him at, I think it was 12. Their offensive line is banged up, as we mentioned. A lot of injuries. If Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Jordan Davis, if those guys don't eat up that middle of the Lions offensive line, I'm going to be really worried about that because they're not their offensive line is not that good. On the Eagles' defensive side, I'm very excited to see the secondary in action. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Marcus Epps. I'm excited to see them against the talented weapons that Detroit has. I'm excited to see we have linebackers finally. Kaiser White, I'm excited to see out there. Whether it's him or TJ Edwards is also with me, seeing Kobe Dean out on the field. Whoever's going to have to cover, TJ Hawkinson or DeAndre Swift coming out the backfield. And then I'm excited to see Hassan Reddick. The Eagles were 29th, I think, in the league in sacks last year. Get after the quarterback. I'm excited to see Brandon Graham back. I know he's older, but apparently there's been a lot of talk that he just looks really good. It doesn't look like he's coming off of an injury. So I'm just excited to see all the new pieces. I'm just like we said, coming into the season, the hopes are high for the Eagles, and I think this defense has a chance to take a step forward. And I think one of the things and Dave mentions this week after week after week when we do a show, the biggest question mark is probably Jonathan Gannon. Is Jonathan Gannon going to be passive? Is he going to be aggressive? Is he going to play the safety or the corners off? Is he going to allow them to play bump? Is he going to allow them to play aggressive and up in the face of the receivers? And will he pressure on the quarterback? Will they blitz? I think that's the biggest key. We know that there's questions around Jalen Hurts, and we know there's questions around Shane Steichen and his play calling and Nick Sirianni and just him coming into his second year as the head coach. But Jonathan Gannon, for a guy that was second to Lovie Smith becoming the head coach in Houston, it gets a lot of love from teams. It's going to be very important that he comes out here and proves that he can't use that excuse that he doesn't have the the personnel anymore. He has the personnel on the defensive side of the ball. He needs to use it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that front. Like, while I think I disagree in regards to who has the bigger target on their back, who has to have the bigger season, it's obviously Jalen Hurts. There's first round picks on the line. There's being the franchise quarterback on the line. There's a lot on the line with Jalen Hurts. To me, I think Jonathan Gannon will have the pieces he needs to finally start making things happen. And you kind of saw throughout the offseason all the different rooms that he has, all the different jobs, specific roles the players have. I really believe that he's going to take full advantage of the players that he has at his disposal. And like you said, I can't wait for so many of these guys to get out on the field. I mean, Brandon Graham, like you said, Josh Sweat, Kaiser White picked off a ball in the first preseason game, and then we never saw him again. If that's the only preview we get of him, we know that we're really excited for him. We got Hassan Reddick, we got James Bradbury, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Like you said, there's so much to be excited for in this defense. And really, I hope that they just show something, even if they look rusty, because I fully anticipate the starters on both sides to look rusty, at least for the first half, maybe for the game in its entirety. But I mean, I think you finally have the pieces. You finally have the people that he needed last year. You have the personnel that he absolutely did not have last year. And hopefully he shows out that there's a reason people really like him. There's a reason people respect him as a defensive coordinator and want him as a head coach. And I would not be shocked if this was his final year as a defensive coordinator. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting a job next season as a head coach with the interest that he generated. And I know that nobody would be mad about that. But I mean, obviously, then you're implementing a whole new defensive strategy again and all that.
Not necessarily.
You could kind of roll with it, like he kind of did. Like when you look at it last year, Jonathan Gannon's defense gave us the same frustrations as Schwartz. Jim Schwartz, we got frustrated because of where he played the safeties, the two high safeties, how far off he played the cornerbacks. Same thing happened with Jonathan Gannon. It's just, I feel like Schwartz had better personnel than Jonathan Gannon did. And Schwartz still played the personnel not to their strengths. He basically played them to their weaknesses and made it really difficult for any of them to really produce.
Before you continue, we always got into that discussion about Rasul Douglas. And I thought he would have been a better safety, and you liked him as a corner,
Agreed.
But he wasn't utilized right with the Eagles. They kept trying to play him off, and he's better press.
He's
corner.
Better right up there. Like you
Which
have,
is what he does in Green Bay.
And I mean, I understand like he gets burnt sometimes, but look in Green Bay, he got burnt sometimes, but he also, I think, probably had more interceptions last year than almost his entire career in Philadelphia. Like you give him the opportunity. Yes, he's going to get burned sometimes, but who doesn't get burned? Trayvon Diggs had like 12 interceptions last year, led the NFL and gave up 1,000 yards. Like at the end of the day, some of those splash plays are huge. They're monumental shifts for you. So 12 times that ball starts going the other way might outweigh the 1,000 yards that you give up. It's difficult for us to really tell at this point. But as far as like against the offense, like this Detroit Lions offense, I believe is much improved over last year. They brought in DJ Chark. They got a healthy DeAndre Swift. They're going to have a healthy TJ Hawkinson. The saving grace for us is Jared Goff as a quarterback. I love that Jared Goff is a quarterback because I think that you can put the pressure on him. You can apply the pressure. You can get in his face. And like you said, they have to get pressure. We never got pressure after the quarterback, even when we had the opportunity. So many missed opportunities when we had the chance to get after the quarterback last season. We need to get after Jared Goff and make his day miserable because if you do that, the Detroit Lions have no chance. It doesn't matter about the receiving weapons that they have. They have no chance. And yeah, Dave, Diggs and Jalen Ramsey do get burned a lot. Look at Jalen Ramsey last night. He gave up a perfect passer rate and he got roasted last night. But sometimes when they're on, they're really on.
Stephon Diggs is also one of the better receivers in the league. So
yeah, it's difficult to do that. But yeah, and then I mean, like you said, the offensive line is banged up. There's no reason we don't have multiple sacks tomorrow on Sunday. We need to look like the Buffalo Bills defense. They had 7 sacks of Matthew Stafford last night, there's no reason we don't have at least 5 sacks of Jared Goff.
Hopefully, we should be able to get after him, but he also gets rid of the ball pretty quickly, and that was always our bugaboo on defense is the opposing quarterback will get rid of it quickly because the corners are playing off deep. That's Gannon's defense. He just didn't want to get beat deep. So hopefully, with having a Slay and a Bradbury with Avonte Maddox, and hopefully having those versatile guys in the secondary, they won't have to always play off deep. Wayne
and
says,
even that way, like at the end of the day, if you don't give him the chance to get it off quick, if you can be on the guys enough for like 3 seconds, even that could be enough time for our guys to get home and get him on the move, flush him out of the pocket. And we know that Jared Goff does not do as well if he doesn't get the ball out quick. He has to get the ball out quick, otherwise he's just not good.
That was the craziest stat from last night's game, Dave. The Bills did not blitz Matt Stafford once. They only rushed 4 the entire game.
And it's because last year he was the best quarterback against the blitz.
Mm-hmm.
I have never heard of a game plan devised solely around this guy's best against the blitz. We will not blitz. That's crazy. That gives it an opportunity to have the cleanest pocket. And this man threw 3 interceptions and got sacked 7 times.
We would like it if we can get the pressure with the front 4 and not have to blitz. We'll see if it can happen on Sunday against the Lions. Wayne says, mark it down. Jalen will throw for 250-plus yards. Team will rush for 150-plus yards and will win by 10-plus points. Could happen.
I don't think we win by 10. I think it's a 1-score game.
All right, so we're getting down to prediction time. The Eagles open the season in Detroit on Sunday, September 11th. What happens? Give me a key play, a player that steps up that you're not expecting, and what's your score?
Player that I'm not expecting. I still think Devonta Smith is going to have a really good game. When you said Dallas Goedert, I said Devonta Smith. And I really think that Devonta Smith can have a good game. I think that there's a lot to be said about A.J. Brown and the attention that he draws and the attention that Dallas Goedert draws. And it's all going to be focused around the middle of that field. And Devonta Smith never really had such an open field before, and he's going to see so much more open field. It's not going to be all jump ball catches. It's not going to be prayers between him and Jalen Hurts. I think that it's going to open the field up a lot where he can burn some defenders. And we know Devonta Smith is easily a top 10 route runner in the NFL right now. He can burn defenders. But Jalen Hurts would underthrow. Jalen Hurts would overthrow. He'd have double coverage, and he'd be going up and trying to grab the ball against 1 or 2 defenders. So I think Devonta Smith. I think that's someone who people are underrating as likely going off. I wouldn't be surprised if Devonta Smith goes off, has at least 100 yards, and I would say maybe 2 touchdowns. Like, I think Devonta Smith can have a really big game. My prediction.
Before you get to your game prediction, Dave asks, Hurts over-under for passing yards 225. What do you think? Over or under? And Dave, I thought you were talking about rushing yards. Thanks for clarifying. No. So
like it.
What do you think? Over or under 225 yards passing?
I think under. And I only say under because I think they're going to run a lot. They're going to throw, but they're going to run a lot. Like, he's just going to miss that number, Dave. Like, I think we're talking like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's between 210 and 220, but he's just going to miss that number.
I think it's under as well. All right. Sorry, you can go back to your prediction now.
Well, what about you? Give me a player you think that, maybe people are sleeping on. He could have a big game that people aren't giving him enough credit for.
I'm going to go Quez Watkins.
Oh, wow.
Because I think
2 wide receivers.
Yeah, I think Quez, because of A.J. Brown, because of Devonta Smith, because of Dallas Goedert, if they want to go 3 and 4 wide receivers sometimes, even if it's 3 receivers with Dallas Goedert spread out. Like, Quez is going to be the forgotten man, and they like to do screens with him. They like to try to get him to get the ball in his hands in open space, and he claims to be the fastest guy in the NFL, which I don't think he is. Tyreek Hill, thank you very much.
He's very fast, though. I won't. He's probably top 10 fastest in the league.
Quez, you think so?
I think top 10 offensively.
And he's going to be returning. And he's going to be returning kicks. I think kicks or punts, one of them. And
it's tough. People have been talking about that, and like if you look at a depth chart, like they have a different kick returner and a different punt returner, but it sounds like Quez Watkins and Kenneth Gainwell are like the two guys. But what they're going to do,
I guess it wouldn't surprise me because there's only 52 on the active roster right now, so and I don't think they're going to bring anybody in. And I think you dressed 46 on game day. I think, but
yeah, I think it's something like that.
It wouldn't shock me if they decided to bring your boy up, but I don't think they're gonna do that for week one. But yeah, I think that
they definitely have to bring up a wide receiver. You can't go into Sunday.
Deion Kane would be the receiver I'd bring up.
FYI, Dave, that is hilarious. LJ really thinks Boston Scott. First of all, if this was a game in New York or against a New York team, you would catch one of us saying Boston Scott, but I don't think it would be LJ.
Yeah, no, not me. Dave knows how. Me and Dave are in a fantasy league together. He tried to get a bunch of people to think that I was going to draft Boston Scott. And I took Trey Sermon instead.
Oh, boy.
With my last pick, I took Trey Sermon because I think Trey Sermon will be the starting running back for the Eagles by the end of the year. That's a different story for a different day.
Ooh.
What was I saying? Yeah, but I think Quez, like, he has a chance to break one. Like, you get the ball in his hands, anything. And like, he's going to be the forgotten man of the offense. So I'm going to go Quez Watkins on offense, and on defense, Kaiser White. I think he has a pick. I think he picks off Jared Goff, and I think he's going to be all over the field, and he's going to make a lot of plays.
I think defensively, I didn't even mention defensive guy, Brandon Graham. There's been so much said about him now. There's going to be so much attention not on him when in previous years there's been so much on him. You got to look at Josh Sweat.
And he's going back
you got to
home.
look at you got to look at those two dudes clog in the middle. Then you got Hassan Reddick rushing on the outside as well. I feel Brandon Graham could have like a multi-sack day.
Auden Tate, not this week because he just got here, but potentially down the line.
Auden Tate intrigues me. He has probably the most NFL experience of any of the wide receivers on our practice squad. And he brings something. He's like Zach Pascal. He brings something unique because he's like 6'5", 225 pounds. He's just a giant outside wide receiver, go up and get the ball, jump up and get it type of guy. I just think when you look at this roster, Auden Tate doesn't fit the Sunday mold for this week.
And I think he just got here too. Like, how much of the offense can he know the way you're going to put him out there? So like if they do add a receiver, I think it'll be Deion Kane. That's what I personally would like to see. Deion Kane made a lot of plays in preseason. I know it against third stringers and whatnot, but I think he deserves that roster spot.
And I think Kane's more. I think Kane's more versatile too. Auden Tate's really your true jump ball type of guy, whereas I think that Deion Kane can be a bit more versatile and do stuff after the catch. And I would call it Deion Kane. Like, and I think that they're going to end up having to make that decision because you can't go into a game with 4 wide receivers. That's really light.
Yeah, especially with the injury issues that AJ Brown has gone through, Zach Pascal has gone through. Devontae not as much.
He's had moments, so like he'd come off the field or he'd leave the game early. So
yeah, you can't have just 4 receivers. So they definitely should add one. If they go in with 4, we'll be crossing our fingers. That's for sure.
If they go with 4, you're going to see Kenneth Gainwell rolled out in the slot a ton.
He was practicing with the receivers this week, so it wouldn't shock me if he sees a lot of work in the slot.
Agreed. What about predictions, El? Hit me up with one. Me first?
Yeah, you first.
I'm going. I know that like a lot of people are throwing out like these 31-24 scores and stuff just because the offense or the defense of the Detroit Lions suck. I feel like that's high. But I think 27-20.
27-20?
For the Eagles. I should clarify.
I'm going to go 31-13 Eagles. They're going to start slow. They're going to start slow. The Lions might jump out to us 3-0, 6-0 lead or whatever. But the same thing happened in Atlanta last year. And I think that the Eagles are going to be able to take in that we all know that what's their stadium called? Is it Ford Field, whatever? It's
Ford
gonna
Field.
it's gonna be loud. There's gonna be a bunch of Eagles fans there too. So, Detroit will feel it coming out, and Detroit might get the ball first and go down the field. If they do, it'll be very, as an Eagles fan, it'll be deflating. But I think that the Eagles will be able to pick it up. And I'm not saying it's going to be on Jalen Hurts. I think they're going to be able to run the football a lot. And here we go. Miles Sanders scores his first touchdown in like 2 years.
Wow. I would love it.
He didn't score last year.
And the worst thing is that's probably a hot take that he scores a touchdown. But come on, man. He's got to score eventually.
He's going to stay healthy. That's the bigger hot take. He's going to stay healthy.
Wayne Miller, player of the game on offense, Dallas Goedert, defense, Brandon Graham. We agree, my friend, on Brandon Graham. Mailata and Johnson giving up 0 sacks.
Lane Johnson didn't give up any sacks. He may have given up 1 QB hurry last year, so that doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah, come on, Wayne, give us a hot take. That ain't a hot take.
No, I like
we know.
Lane Johnson might be the best right tackle in football. And he
Agreed.
gets no love. He wasn't on the top 100, and I love his comment. I think when somebody asked him about that, he goes, look at all the defensive ends and tell me how many of them got sacks on me. It's true. None of them got sacks on him. So,
and FYI, like Field the 8 said, the seasonal, entry for Lane Johnson, no season starts without a restructure of Lane Johnson's contract.
That's true.
So the man has restructured again to free up money for Howie. But, I mean, don't act like Lane Johnson, that's voluntary, he's doing it for the team. That's guaranteed money. He's just getting more and more guaranteed money rolling down the hill. The dude's going to end up with a fully guaranteed contract, and he never started out with one. So
that's true. So before we finish off, what were your thoughts on Jason Peters and Dallas attire?
Well, I think that it looks gross. But the absolute disrespect and disregard that some Eagles fans, shame on you. Jason Peters gave you the best years of his career. And as much as anybody hates it, if you're a 40-year-old man and you are being given the opportunity to make $1 million plus to come back and play, you would do it too, even if you were dedicated you say you're dedicated to solely one team. So to the fans who were extremely disrespectful, that is just because I saw some comments. It was brutal, man. There was some brutal disrespect to Jason Peters, and he gave us his best years. He did not become the bodyguard for nothing. But on the bright side, we will take full advantage of him.
Brandon Graham's going to have a field. Brandon Graham and Hassan Reddick will have a field day against him.
So
he's not even going to finish the game, by the way. He's not even going to finish a game. So
this is true.
He's stealing money at this point.
Exactly. Why not? If you're 40 years old and somebody says come back for the minimum, and if you play 50% snaps, we'll give you $1 million on top of that. Man, you're making $2-3 million just to come and play 50% of the time.
Wayne says, here's a hard take for you. In a blowout game, Mailata or Kelsey gets a touchdown plunge this year. Lane Johnson caught a touchdown last year. By the way, had more touchdown catches than Kenny Golladay for the Giants. But
if Kelsey gets a touchdown plunge, he's retiring at the end of this year. He's retiring.
I hope Kelsey can score a touchdown. And I would love to see Mailata get the ball like a rugby scrum. I would love to see it. But I would love to see another lineman score a touchdown. So
Mailata would destroy some people. If you let that
he would want to take off his pads and helmet first. That's what he's used to. So we both have the Eagles winning against Detroit. We both have the Eagles winning the NFC East. We both have the Bills in the Super Bowl. Or no, you have the Bills in the Super Bowl. I have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. We both have the Packers in the Super Bowl. I have the Packers winning. You have the Bills winning. Dude, this 2022 season, it took forever to get here. So happy that it's back. I cannot wait to watch the Eagles play on Sunday, and I can't wait to talk about it on Tuesday, my friend.
Absolutely, man. And before we go, we didn't reference this Jock Talk. He said, hey, guys, how is everyone? We are doing great. We are so happy that football is back. Thank you for checking in on us. Make sure you continue to tune in. And before I let you close things out, Shout out to Darlene, who said we don't know football but stuck around for at least 45 minutes when her last comment came through. You are the most loyal Cowboys fan watching this show. Thank you so much.
That was good. That was good. Hopefully you tune in every Tuesday and Friday. Well, mostly Tuesdays and Fridays. Obviously, the Eagles have a Thursday game later on in the year, which will change up our schedule just a little bit. But yes, very loyal Cowboys fan listening to a Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Absolutely. You want to close it out there?
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for watching the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHerald54. Follow the Painted Lines on Twitter and YouTube at the Painted Lines, and follow Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Edge of Philly Sports. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Green Hour.
It's been a long time coming. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sanders patiently eyeing Sanders, good cut, and another block. Sanders still going inside the 40.